Hey guys, let's continue with the discussion we had yesterday about Supreme Court ruling against Trump's global sweeping importation taxes. And I just want to mention one thing, one little detail that's kind of interesting because if you look at the litigation, the both sides, you see that the the company called the Learning Resources. It's a very small company. It's a family owned in the Chicago area. Definitely not the Fortune 500. Probably not even Fortune 10,000. But it's really exciting. Make me feel good and more powerful. Is that such a small company can go to the court and dispute with Trump. The similar things, it's impossible. Can you argue with Xi Jinping in the Supreme Court of China? That's out of a question. It's impossible. So that's what makes this country so powerful, so unique. And so that's one thing. Last time, remember, I mentioned two things about Justice Kavanaugh's his argument is that I pointed out that you know imposing imposing a broad, sweeping importation taxes is not within presidential power, especially when it comes to long-term, no deadline in sight. That's not just really beyond the president. If you look at the major question doctrine in the legal system, you see that you know the judiciary system specifically mentioned that when it comes to important broad economic or other decisions, the executive branch cannot randomly using any citing any old laws, and they have to get the explicit uh, authorization from the Congress. That's in it for a reason because major decisions need to be made by a collective wisdom, not like a one man's head. Okay, so that's in that sense, I think the majority of Supreme Court did exactly the beautiful thing. They should step in. Okay, but I also said yesterday, I said that the judicial system has been lenient to Trump because if you think about that, Nixon's term in 1971 is only last 4 to 5 months. Trump is at least 10 months or 11 months. Most importantly, he doesn't give us any deadline in his out of a deals. He would just purposely leave it open, so keep everybody sitting on the edge of their seat and waiting for him, so he can get a real um, power play. Okay, but to that sense, I actually I think that to say that the judiciary system has been lenient to Trump, it's not entirely accurate. That actually the next point I want to make because one of the last point is that a complaint that made by Justice Kavanaugh is that it's gonna create a big mess. How to refund the importers and eventually to the consumers, right? That's right. However, you really need to think about the separation of power because the U.S. system, unlike French system that the court can be taking a very active role to investigation fact and then come to the conclusion. The U.S. system, legal system, it's more passive. Basically, the court is taking advantage of a legal adversary, and then let both sides argue. Let presume that in order to win, they always try to get the best effect in favor to them, and then that way, in court actually merely act as a referees or umpire. So that's make the so that's why this is a very important feature. I'm surprised that the Justice Kavanaugh did not mention this. He should have been in the system for so many years, for decades, uh, if not years, and he should have known that the U.S. feature system. So this one, that means that, uh, it's not, the judicial system is not particularly lenient to Trump, but more because the court is waiting for guys to coming up to approach them, say, "Hey, judge and hey, court, you really have to fix this. This guy's wrong. That I want to, hear your opinion, hear what you have to say." So that's why, in that case, that as long as there's nobody raising the issue, as long as there's no litigation involved, the court cannot, actively say, "Hey, Trump, what Trump did is wrong." They have to listen to the legal adversary. So this is unlike the court. Usually, they don't go out to do the investigations. If you watch the Lincoln lawyers, you'll see that that's how the U.S. system works. So that's why, in that case, it's inaccurate to say that the legal system is lenient. It's more because there has been no case brought up to them. So they don't have no chance to offer opinions, offer rulings. So that's why, exactly because there's the same passivity features in the U.S. System, make it obvious that you have to wait for cases coming to them. Okay, so in that sense, that it's not up to the Supreme Court to rule, to give a script of the actions or behaviors to the executive branch. Say, "Hey, you have to do this, you have to do that." You know, it's more because the Supreme Court, the legal system, is more passive. By the way, there's a little difference in the lower at the lower federal level. I guess at the district level, I read one article. I think it's very important. I think it makes sense. They say that the district level federal court judges, they tend to be problem solvers. And then the way up to like a appeal, court of appeals, and all the way to Supreme Court, the issue is becoming more and more abstract. Okay, so that's why in this case, um, we have a Supreme Court basically has one question to solve, to answer. Is this legal? Is this constitutional for Trump to, you know, uh, impose so much sweeping importation taxes? Especially consider the learning sources. It's a small company. They little importation taxes really make a big difference for them. So to that extent, the Supreme Court answered the question exactly as it's supposed to be. You know, but then you have to think about this. Justice Kavanaugh, the point, it's not a totally bogus, right? It will be creating a mess. However, that mess is subjected to other litigations and subject to lower court, like a district level, for them to rule out. Okay, then you don't have to, you don't expect that anything and everything goes all the way to Supreme Court, right? That's why we have a lower court. They are doing their job. So that's why, to that extent, the Justice Kavanaugh's um, criticism, it's not well funded. Let me stop here. Next time we'll talk about the Trumpist debating Trumpist idea that all the countries in the world has been ripping off the U.S. That's a more interesting question. Let's stop here.